anyone care to speak about the budget?
You know, I might just open by saying what's happened across the state is in the second interim report, you've seen we went from 3 districts down to 2 that filed negative budgets, but qualified budgets went from 31 up to 41. So it's across the state, and of those, several of them are in LA County. You've got Torrance, you've got Wilsona, you've got Montebello, you've got LAUSD, Inglewood.
You mean running deficits for the year?
That filed a qualified, which means that
qualified is they may not
they
meet
may
their
not
final obligations in the current year or the subsequent 2 years.
Oh,
so
brother.
And we're one of 2 districts that are not in the vote, correct?
There's a lot of districts that are still positive. Tom was just saying, it's second interim. It went last year from 31
to
increased
41.
to 41 school districts that in the state that filed qualified.
And the primary culprit are basically employee pensions, because the growth in COLA was 1.56, and you know, the cost of the increased pensions is significantly higher now, like 1.85. So.
Okay. Anyone else in the budget?
I have a few comments.
Okay.
So, with Senate Bill 858 that was introduced with the 14-15 state budget, established new requirements for transparency and contain a provision that places a hard cap when certain requirements are met on the combined assigned and unassigned restricted balance. This is the one that you can't exceed 6%. So we're still trying to work to see if that's going to get repealed, but that part of that is in the public hearing. We have to go through why we have a reserve higher than the recommended minimum. So with that, bear with me, I have to read through some of this stuff. School districts that propose to adopt a budget that includes a combined assigned and unassigned ending fund balance in excess of the minimum recommended reserve, which is 3%, for economic uncertainties must provide the following information at the public hearing for their proposed budget prior to budget adoption. Number 1, the minimum restricted economic uncertainties level required each year identified in the budget. Number 2, the amount of the assigned and unassigned ending fund balance that exceeds the minimum restricted amount in each year. And number 3, the reasons for the REU being greater than the minimum. And so I passed this out. This is the reserve for economic uncertainties. So you see in the budget year, the district's assigned fund balance 1.1%. What that is that's our Project Lead the Way, that's our gym account that we've assigned, that's the site's discretionary accounts that we've assigned. That part of the ending fund balance is not the districts, it's the schools, it's that programs. So that's 1.1%, or 286,000 roughly. The district's unassigned fund balance for Fund 1 in 17 is 6.78%, or 1,750,000. The 3% of our total expenditures for the budget year would be 778,000. So our reserve exceeding the minimum is 4.9%, or 1,258,000. The reasons why we have a higher reserve, the more than 3%, is the reserve, like I said, was 778,000. That's equivalent to less than 2 weeks of our payroll. So that wouldn't be fiscally prudent to have only 2 weeks reserved. A higher reserve affords the district the flexibility to absorb unanticipated expenditures without significant disruptions to educational programs, i.e. a special ed placement, a lawsuit being filed on. The district received approximately $1.5 million in one-time funds in 15-16. That is not entirely spent. The district also received $575,000 in one-time revenues in 16-17 that are not entirely spent. The district is taking a strategic approach to spend these funds wisely over the course of several years. This approach seems more prudent and thoughtful than just rushing to spend one-time revenues in order to bring reserve levels to the arbitrary minimum level.
I'm sure they'd love the arbitrary one.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
So that takes care of my requirements. If you want, I can go into some details of the budget. We can talk about it when we adopt the budget next Wednesday. It's at the board's mercy.
Okay. Would anyone else like to speak on the budget? All right. I'd like to close the hearing at 7:08.